thanks for taking this walk with me. What's your name? What do you do? Nice shades as well.
Thank you very much. I'm Chris Denny. I'm growth lead at Fyxer. It's an AI email assistant that categorizes your emails, drafts your replies for you. I run our Meta account. We are global, spending over 7 figures a month. My previous roles were in consumer, so I worked for the Essence Vault. Before that, I worked for a brand called Rise and Fall, and then some other kind of apps that no one would have heard of.
Maybe they heard of it. You never know.
Nava and Loot.
Okay.
My Looties.
Yeah, the Fyxer ad library is often referenced.
It's pretty cool, right? We've got like an amazing creative team.
Yeah.
Lots of like interesting backgrounds and stuff. Yeah, great to work with them.
How are you guys able to make so many ads and make so many winners?
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky to have a fairly big creative team that are also like very involved in Meta itself. So they're looking in the platform every day. They're looking at what competitors are doing, getting involved with talking to our customers. We're really lucky to have like a fully immersed performance creative team. Yeah, I think because they have like such interesting creative backgrounds, we obviously do a lot of the creative concepts you'd expect to see.
Yeah.
But also they come up with loads of really like interesting visual ideas that a normal performance creative probably wouldn't think of.
I actually get this question a lot, which is like, how's your team actually structured? Because you don't have, it's not that big of a team for the amount of ads you make. So like how many people and how many ads do you make and how do you do it? Like how's it structured?
Naturally, with a fast growing startup, we have gone through lots of different iterations of like how we structure our team, and that will always be evolving, I think, as the business changes and while we find like the optimal setup. Right now, what we're doing is we have our kind of cross-functional meta pod where I'm working with a videographer, copywriter, designer, and then we also have some like additional contract support that help us as well. On the piece around volume, you know, it's the $1 million question, right? We've gone through lots of different approaches here, from creating hundreds of ads to minimal ads, and we're kind of sitting somewhere in between right now. The most important thing for us is creating ads that like actually start from somewhere with some hypothesis that we have. Some gap that we see in our creative mix or some new customer insight that we've uncovered. Volume is still important, but we're going for strategic volume rather than chucking hundreds and hundreds of ads at the wall and hoping something sticks.
And what has been the best winning source of inspiration for you from all those different things you look at?
Definitely the customer insights piece, understanding different ways that people experience inbox overwhelm. Like we know that this is an issue that impacts like hundreds of millions of people around the world, but because it's such a broad kind of problem that people feel, the way people experience it and emotionally is quite different. So our team has done a lot of research recently and some big kind of chunky surveys to understand like what are the real kind of drivers.
What do those surveys look like? Like how could someone watching this get similar customer insights to action into meta ads?
I think it's like a pretty traditional like jobs to be done survey, like understanding what the problem is that the user is trying to solve, what they were using in the past, like any like failed solutions, anything that almost stopped them from signing up, and basically using that as a starting point.
But I find that a lot of the time it's like it's not nuanced enough. So unless you pull like exact like customer quotes from a user interview.
We're doing both of those things. At the moment, I think most of it is coming from surveys, and we've identified like 3 kind of core problems or like jobs that people hire us for. But like the data's never going to be perfect, right? Going between like surveys and customer interviews. But what I always say to people is, you know, Meta is the place to validate that. We are in the best position to actually take this data and go and validate whether that is true or not. So it's definitely using that as a starting point. And then we're checking on Meta, is this true? And I think a next step for us is going to be trying to work out what's the mix between the percentages of these different like problem spaces.
Right.
And like allocating our creative resource differently. So how much of it should be based on reputation versus inbox overwhelm or like mental clarity kind of thing.
How many ads should you be testing for how much spend? Like what are you guys doing? What's your ratio here?
At the moment we're testing somewhere between like 50 to 100 ads a week. But like I said, we go through the motions a little bit on trying to find the right level of volume.
Yeah.
I think what we're trying to do now as well is be a little bit more strategic about at what points we need greater volume and when we need less volume. And actually sometimes just like allowing our account, if it's doing well and everything's looking good, to just do what it needs to do.
Okay. And how quickly have you grown? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of like public numbers going from like 1 to, is it 32 mil ARR now?
Yeah.
In like a year or something?
Exactly, yeah. 0 to 32 million a year.
Okay, yeah, that's a stat, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Was all of that driven by paid ads, or what's the channel mix?
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot from paid ads. We have a few like product-led growth drivers as well, which like really help. So a mix of that. More recently, we've been investing a lot more into organic like SEO and things like that. And we're really starting to see like the early benefit of that, which is great.
What's the number one strat, would you say, for SEO?
I actually have no idea.
Okay, it's a different team. Yeah.
So I think like creatively, founder ads, no matter what we do, always tend to perform really well for us. So recreating that format as much as we can tends to work pretty well.
And is it you tell kind of the same story or a different story, or
pretty
is
much?
There any way to like make a lot of them easily?
We're lucky that we've got founders that are very keen to get involved and very good behind the camera.
Yeah.
To be honest, like we've found recently with like the founder ads and a lot of our creative in general is that the ones that really perform the best are the ones that just really lay it out on a plate for you and just say, this is what we are, this is what we do, this is the offer. That's it.
It's as simple as possible.
Yeah, our best performing founder ad recently was with our founder Arch.
Yeah.
And it literally opens with, "Hi, I'm Archie, I'm the founder of Fyxer, and here's how it works."
Yeah.
And then the UI pops up to kind of walk through it. So like super simple product walkthrough. Surprisingly not speaking to an emotional pain point or anything like that. Yeah, that worked really well. So we're replicating that as much as possible and probably seeing how we can take that like framework and script and put it into like a different concept type as well.
And to maybe different creators, but not founder led.
Exactly, yeah.
Your product is very like desktop heavy, but if you know anything about Facebook ads, it's basically 90% mobile.
Yeah.
How do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, it's a really interesting challenge for us. Spending this money on a mobile consumer platform.
Yeah.
But our product being a work platform that's overwhelmingly desktop. To be honest, as it stands, like we are seeing that people discover us on mobile and then they're converting later on desktop.
Within 7 days, or is attribution a mess?
Well, attribution is a mess, as you would expect.
With every business,
But we've validated this through various like holdout tests, conversion lift studies and stuff. So we know that it's driving incremental impact that we can't actually track. That being said, like there is still a big opportunity for us to think about how are we facilitating that mobile discovery to desktop conversion journey better? Because at the moment, users are just doing it on their own. So there's an opportunity there, I think.
Yeah, I think that's like a big untapped one. I went to like Business of Apps like 2-3 weeks ago, and I was surprised the amount of people running it.
What I would say is don't bother trying to bid up on desktop because it just doesn't work.
Doesn't work, okay.
Yeah, the inventory was just not there.
It's too limited.
Yeah.
So do you do like YouTube then? Because YouTube you can target a bit more desktop, even though it's still mobile heavy. But...
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do quite a lot of YouTube testing.
What's something most people will disagree with you on?
I go around the block on this one a little bit, but I'm not convinced that you need naming conventions to run a successful performance creative program. Full disclosure, we use naming conventions, obviously. But as with many other brands, I'm sure you spend a lot of time thinking, are the fields and values correct? Really what it kind of comes down to is what is working, let's do more of that.
Yeah.
Let's see how we can expand. And what isn't working, let's do less of that.
And do you judge that just by like spend, basically?
Pretty much, yeah. At the moment, we're using spend as like kind of a proxy of success. We believe that if Meta is spending on it, then it is a successful ad.
In terms of the different types of content, so founder ads do really well for you. Really like direct to the point. No big like founder backstory, just like, I'm a founder, here's what the product does.
Yeah.
What other kind of ads are you seeing working? Are you making any AI ads work? Or would love to know.
We've got like a really strong creative team, tested lots of different AI ads and lots of different kind of approaches. I think we've moved away from the kind of AI for AI's sake type of ad, you know, the stuff that's a little bit...
Like, oh, new model, you can do this now. And then it's like everyone slams that for 2 weeks.
And also just these super like kind of crazy ad, which...
Oh, what, like the Love Island fruit one?
Yeah.
Have you tried that?
Yeah, that kind of basically slop. But now the team is looking at like how can we actually use this to fill the gap basically with like iterations and things like that. So it's like if we have a concept that works, how can we recreate that in like an AI format? Like, is there a way that we could use it to speak to a slightly different audience by changing like the character? Is there a way that we can just add like a little bit of like visual diversity using AI?
So it's basically taking the idea and then swapping out format with AI.
Basically just as you would with any other asset type.
Yeah. So you just type it in and 2 minutes later it's there.
Exactly.
Okay.
That being said, we have still like reserved some time for more like explorative stuff, because you never know with those things, it might win. But yeah, ultimately we're trying to see like how can we replicate the framework of a winning ad using AI.
What's been your favorite AI ad so far? AI has performed for you?
Not really.
Not really?
No.
Okay. But is that because your founder content is just that much better than AI ads currently?
Potentially, yeah.
I had the same problem at Zoe where we worked with Davina McCall and Stephen Bartlett, and those ads, especially the Davina ones, absolutely just crushed.
Yeah, I bet.
Like in comparison, it was probably like 4 times better. And that was like, would carry performance for like 6 months. And then it's like, okay, how do you find an ad that beats Davina?
To be fair, like a challenge for Fyxer,
Yeah.
again, like working on a consumer platform like Meta, is that we are still a work product. So it's finding the balance between like capturing the user's attention, but also signaling that this is a product for work. That's a really interesting challenge. And I feel like maybe to date so far, the AI stuff just too quickly signals actually this isn't for work. So that's always like a balance for us, basically. So we want to capture attention, engage people, but we also want to say this is a product, a serious product that you can use for work.
So it's almost like leaning to the end of the prosumer market.
Yeah, exactly.
And for anyone watching that's maybe at like 1 or 10 mil ARR and want to get to 30, 50, 100, like, what would you tell them? Like, how do they do it? Specifically on meta ads.
Be aware that there's no kind of universal truth when it comes to meta. Like what's worked on an account you've worked on in the past may not be the case with this account. What got you to 1 million might not be what gets you to 30 million. So I think being really open-minded and like, keen to like test anything when it comes to campaign setups, bid strategies, and then obviously like creative as well. Because you'll get to a point where you're going to have to probably expand on your creative a little bit, and incremental reach will become more important. And you're thinking more about, okay, how do I diversify message and the visuals to like reach more people?
To kind of like go against your point of like, there's no universal winning thing. Have you actually found anything from like Rise and Fall or the Essence Vault that's actually like transferred over to Fyxer?
At a point, potentially, but I think the way that we're running our account right now is completely different to how I ran it at like the Essence Vault and Rise and Fall. But also as well, the way we're running the Fyxer account right now is very different to how we were running it 6 months ago. It's changing quite a lot, and like naturally when you're growing quite fast, like you need to adjust as you go, and also just kind of take the time to reflect on whether actually is this the optimal setup for us right now, given what we're trying to do.
And what is your current account set up now? If it's changed from 6 months ago, I'm curious.
Fairly simple. Mostly single market campaigns with a single ad set. Typical, like your exclusions applied for existing customers and things like that. We've changed a lot, like our approach to how we roll out and test creative. Previously, we were rolling out creative straight into our BAU campaigns, and I think for a lot of brands, like, I think that is the right way to do it.
Okay, and is that like a CBO campaign and it's in a new ad set, or it's like you just have one ad set, one campaign?
One ad set.
And you're just like archiving and replacing?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay,
Straight in, basically banking on the idea that there is a lot of learnings behind the ad set. We believe that it's probably going to have better chance of success there. But then more recently, we have moved back to kind of pre-vetting our ad creative in a bid cap campaign, which is specifically set to a 1-day click. So we're now holding probably like the strictest targets on it possible by making it 1-day click, and then also setting it the bid cap. That's very new, by the way. That's like the last 2 weeks, so I don't know if that's going to work.
Is it trending to the right direction?
It is trending to the right direction. The challenge we have now is something that I've seen not work before, is like, does this ad, when you move it over, actually scale, and does the performance match?
But is your main campaign also 1-day click?
Not right now.
Oh, okay, so you have a mismatch of like what wins in one setting versus another. Which is, I've actually seen that fail a lot. But then it's like, do you switch your main campaign to 1-day click, which is no, because it's like probably spending a lot and don't touch it if it's working.
Exactly.
So now your account's set up, you basically have like a QA step of like, is this working before it graduates to your main campaign. You guys have a very lean team in terms of the performance setup. How do you actually like manage all of that in terms of like the media buying, everything, because you guys don't use like an agency for media buying, right?
Correct.
So yeah, how do you do it all in-house so efficiently?
Yeah, I mean, it helps to run the account like fully broad and just allow Meta to make these decisions for us. Like we trust that it's doing the right thing, and obviously we test that using geo holdouts and conversion lift tests rather than doing lots of kind of small tweaks in the account every day. From like a creative perspective, you know, we're exporting all of our data from Meta, feeding that into like a Claude project, and that's basically spitting out insights for us and making suggestions for what we do next. And then obviously having Ad Manage really helps. It means that we're able to ship hundreds of ads a week super quickly and just know that they're actually going to the right place.
You're actually one of the top automation users on the platform.
True, yeah. So we also have an automation set up using Ad Manage that basically notifies us on Slack when an ad has gone live and tells us which market it was launched into. And then we're also having that going into like a Google Sheet as well. So it's just really useful to have like a list basically of what went live when.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, has this been launched? And then you can check like, well, which one was the winner? When's the last time you actually like change your mind about something on like a long held belief?
Probably that there is still space for a separate creative testing campaign within your campaign mix, even if it's just a case of kind of pre-vetting what is going to work rather than just kind of testing it. Like I said, in the past, we've launched stuff straight into the BAU campaigns on the belief that most learnings are there, so it's more likely to succeed. But more recently, in our drive for efficiency, we've launched creative in this separate bid cap campaign. Thank you, Laura Harrod, for pushing me to do that.
Shout out to Laura. Yeah, I mean, I did the same. I've gone like kind of both ends of the extremers. Like I would just put in like 150 ads. I'm like, just give me one or two from all of those ads versus like one ad per ad set. Or I actually never really did the main campaign strategy because I was always like, it's gonna just make my main campaign so volatile. So I actually never really went down that route as much.
Well, I think what you find as well is the challenge I've had before with the separate creative testing campaign, and you just end up having lots and lots of ad sets that have got various creatives that are working. But if that works, it works, right?
Yeah.
From like a simplification and consolidation perspective, feels a little bit sketchy, but hey, the numbers speak for themselves, right?
Yeah, and the issues with it is like the graduation process, like doesn't always work.
You need to make sure that if you are in that situation, the ads you're putting out are distinct enough, both like visually diverse and diverse from like a message perspective, to make sure that they're not competing if they are in like multiple ad sets. How do we make sure that our ads are like totally distinct, as visually diverse as possible?
How do you do that?
Well, like the first thing is trying to look at what are the different kind of like concept groupings that we create.
Okay.
How can we add diversity through like the tone of the ad? We have some stuff that's very straightforward. We have some comedy stuff that works quite well. Diversification of like the character. So is that a founder? Are we using someone from our team? Have we got an actor? And then obviously message diversification, which I think really does like the heavy lifting. So making sure like we're speaking to a different pain point, different persona, to kind of send it in different directions with the algorithm.
And what would you say is the minimum amount of variation needed to have a distinct enough ad?
You ask Meta, they would say it has to be like totally distinct and all of those variables are different.
Well, that's not true.
What we say to our team is like, given current time constraints, let's make it as diverse as we can. So if we're rushing to turn stuff around in a week, some subtle variation with color on statics, sure. If we've got 2 or 3 weeks, then actually we can do much more visually diverse things. And it just probably means it's got a better chance of success. But yeah, I would always say make it as visually diverse as you can, given your current time constraints. With videos, you're looking at like, what's the different framework that follows from like a scripting perspective, making sure you've got different surroundings, making sure you have talent that represents lots of different people, and then obviously like message as well. Also thinking about like the tone of it, like is this straightforward, is it comedy, is it like playful, and then what's the kind of pain point that the ad speaks to.
Cool, that's like a lot of variations. At least if you have one of those things different, you could basically make like a lot of ads that way.
Exactly. And the way we do that as well is just like, we're not trying to test through these things sequentially, but what we're doing is making stuff as diverse as possible. And when we find a winner, we're then kind of expanding out on that and trying to test what do we think are the variables that made that ad a winner.
Where do people find you if they want to contact you? Maybe they want to know good tips or trade knowledge.
Find me on LinkedIn. That is the best place.
And Chris Denny.